Welcome to Helping You Thrive with Banterra Bank, a podcast that offers inspiration and information to help individuals, businesses, and communities to thrive. I'm Jennifer Spence, Director of Marketing for Banterra Bank, and one of your co-hosts.
And I'm Ben Kraft, Commercial Officer at Banterra Bank and also a co-host. You know, we are so fortunate to have really good community college and university offerings in the regions that we serve, but today we're going to talk about one of our favorites.
That's right, Ben. John A. Logan College is actually located in our hometown, Carterville, in southern Illinois. You know, back in the Stone Ages, I actually was a student there.
Well, I won't put you on the spot and ask you what years, or we don't have to get into the Stone Ages there, Jennifer. But yes, John A. Logan College is right in our backyard. It's incredible to see how they have grown over the years, and especially the current growth initiatives that are taking place with construction projects. So today, our guest is Dr. Kirk Overstreet, president of John A. Logan College. So, Dr. Overstreet, welcome to our podcast.
Well, good morning, and thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Thanks for joining us today. We appreciate your time. So why don't we start by you just giving us a brief overview of the college and what's going on.
Oh, wow. Okay. So, many of you know John A. Logan College. We are the most we're a comprehensive community college here in Southern Illinois. We actually serve the region of Jackson County and Williamson County, as well as parts of Franklin, Perry, and Union, just as a little sliver. You know, we have a huge impact. We have about 170,000 people that can come to our college throughout the region, as well as folks who come from out of the region to go to the college.
That's great. So there's a lot of things that we want to talk about the college specifically, but before we do that, let's just get a little bit an overview of Dr. Kirk Overstreet and how your journey led to Logan and just background. And
Sure. I have this long, sordid story. I started at a junior college, community college, when I was a young man back in the
Stone Ages.
Yeah, we'll call it prehistoric times. I'm from Northern Illinois. I grew up just outside of Chicago. Spent most of my life there, some time in Indiana, but then the rest of the time here. But I started at College of DuPage for my career out of high school. I was a terrible student.
Really?
I wasn't motivated. I was a first-generation student, so I didn't really understand the ropes. My dad did not finish high school. My mom just finished high school. We didn't have that background, and so navigating community college or their college in general was really difficult. Mm-hmm. We didn't really know what direction to go. So I struggled through first year or so. And luckily for me, my dad was an IBEW lineman and a foreman. And for my 18th birthday, before I went to college, he actually gave me my first my permit card, and I worked that first summer. At the end of senior year of high school, he said, "What are you going to do with your life?" And I said, "Well, I want to go to college." And he goes, "Well, great. Here's your permit because you're going to get a job to pay for college."
Smart.
And this is, again, back a little bit of ways away, and we didn't have a lot of the grants and different things that we have now and scholarships that we have now that are a lot more beneficial to our students today. So we didn't have a Pell Grant, we didn't have a MAP Grant, we didn't have the things that would really get you into school and get you going. So I went to work, and then I stopped work that fall and went to college. And like I said, I was not the best student. Didn't really know what I wanted to do. There was one thing that happened that freshman year that changed sort of my direction in life. I am a big science fiction fan. And so I was reading an Asimov Foundation book.
Bookmark that for later.
Yes.
We can talk a little bit more about that. Yeah, well, there's lots behind my name that makes me a science fiction fan. But he was trying to get me kind of hooked, and he said, "Well, science fiction is just history in reverse." And I thought, wow. And so he got me hooked on history. I liked history, but I liked the storytelling of history. By the end of that year, I knew I wanted to be a history teacher, but I also knew that failing math twice was not a good thing. So I needed to do something and figure out how I was going to go forward. So I went to work. I went to work construction. And for about the next 15 years, I worked primarily through the IBEW, worked my way up. I became a helper. I became a journeyman lineman. I was a foreman. All the time, though, I would take classes and I would go to school at night. I was trying to kind of piece it together. And in the meantime, I was a bartender and a bouncer and worked in market research, and I worked at an ice cream parlor. I mean, you did what you had to do. Mm-hmm. IBEW work is great work. The trades are great work, but especially what I was doing, I was outside construction, so it was very seasonal. So you'd come to midwinter and there'd be a lot of layoffs, and so you'd have to, go out and find something different to do. So I learned a lot of other different kinds of things to do. All those good experiences, though. Kind of fast forward, I met my wife, and I met my wife when I was working the front door of a restaurant in Chicago.
Every job counts.
Every job counts. And I thought she was cute, kind of, ended up dating her, and then we ended up getting married. And one day she said, when I was working construction, she said, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "I really want to go back to school." And she said, "Well, shut up and go back to school." So I went back to CEOD. I went back to College of DuPage. I picked up where I had left off on different pieces. That math class, I never got to that. I had to get to that math class. I was in my mid-30s. And so I went back. I had a great instructor there. I went from there to a small liberal arts college in Naperville called North Central College. Got my I got my degree in history. But then I was there, and I was going to be a high school history teacher. That's what I was, just going to be a high school history teacher. And my daughter was 3, and I had this fantastic professor who was teaching me intellectual European history. And his story, I could tell you this story for hours. His name is Pierre Lebeau. And Pierre was 10 when the Nazis invaded Paris.
Oh, wow.
And stood on the avenue as the Nazis marched into Paris and changed the flag, the Parisian flag, to the Nazi emblem overnight. And his father was a French airman. And so his father had gone into hiding, and Pierre had lived through that experience during World War II. And at the end of the war, his father had passed during the war in a prison camp. After the war, though, he met a GI, and the GI befriended him. He got through high school, got through the beginning of university, had been corresponding with him, and he said, "Why don't you come to America and finish your degree here?" And so Dr. Lebeau came to the Americas, became a professor, and became my professor eventually. And so Dr. Lebeau was standing on the front steps of Goldspan. I'm like taking classes, and I'm still working construction. I'm going to school at night. I'm trying to finish the bachelor's degree. And he looks at me and he goes, "Kirk, you don't want to be a high school teacher." I said, "Dr. Lebeau, I need a job." I said, right now I was actually I'd taken off that semester so I could go full time to school. And I said, "I have a wife and a daughter, and I want to get out there and get to work, right?" And he says, No. I have a friend down at Ball State. I got you a graduate position, so you've got to go there and get your graduate degree. I'm like,
well, thanks for helping.
So my wife was actually on an assignment in California, and I called her up. I said, "Hey, you want to move to Muncie, Indiana?" And she's like, "Why?" I said, "I got a graduate position, and it's full ride, and I can get my master's, and then I can go teach college." And
because Dr. Lebeau said so.
And because Dr. Lebeau had told me to do so. And she said, "Well, is that what you really want to do?" And I said, "What I really want to do is I really want to go back to the community college and teach. I want to be the inspiration for me."
That you had.
I want to find that kid who needs that snap. We packed up, moved from, my daughter was 5, and I said, "We're going to take you, and you're going to go to kindergarten in Indiana," and she cried. And we went and had an experience, and we came back. We moved back. My dad was sick. He passed away, so we came back to Chicagoland area. I was looking for work. I was looking to teach. But now I'm 34, 35, and getting a first gig as a college professor when you're at that, kind of mid-career, people are, it started when they were in their really early 20s, and I'm like kind of fighting that battle. And there was just not a lot of full-time positions open. But I had been a foreman, I had been a manager, I had, run companies. And so I started looking at administration, and I found this job at a small private school on the north side of Chicago that was looking for a compliance manager, a DSO, and a DSO is a designated school official, and they work with international students. Facilities, it was all one job. It was compliance, DSO, facilities, and academics. So I'm like, okay. I went and I took this job. It was an English language training school, plus they had a CNC operations and health information technologies. So I ran this school. I worked with these people for about 3 years, learned all about international studies and services, and kind of was looking for my next step. I ended up at UIC. I went to the international department at UIC. I worked for a great guy there, and I learned a lot more about administration, and I learned a lot more about working with students from him. And then I was with him for about 3 years, and an opening came up at the College of Business for their for their director of human resources. So now the whole time I was actually working with him, I was doing international. I was doing all of the work for the doctors and the researchers that we would bring over. And their specialty, you have to fill out these forms, H-1B forms and O's and PR. So I'd learned a little bit about the law and about international law. So the HR department at the College of Business had a lot of those faculty, and they wanted me to come over, and so I went to work with them. I know it's a long story. But I worked there for 3 years and really was itching. I really wanted to get back to, and now at that point I was actually adjuncting too. So I was teaching for Lewis University. So I was getting my teaching gig in, which was really exciting. And I was impacting students, and I would get all these. I had a lot of athletes because I taught Wednesday nights. And so they had a lot of athletes, and a lot of my athletes were always there for sports management, and I got at least 4 of them to change over to become social studies teachers in my time. Yeah. But then an opening up happened at College of DuPage, and it happened to be working with adjuncts, and it happened to be kind of working with their HR piece. And so I went to work there, and I moved through the ranks at College of DuPage from an assistant dean to the VP of academics and then to assistant provost. And I took as many opportunities as I could to learn as much as I could about working in community college. But all I wanted to do was working in community college, because that is where my heart is, about how we help our communities. And it's that variety. It's that, we can work with those students who are coming right out of high school or the dual credit all the way to 99 plus, right? And bring people back. I tell students when I meet them at the new student orientation, I've said, you want to be a welder or you want to go into finance? I said, this is your first step. You might be a welder now, but you might actually go into finance later on. And you might be a welder, you might be going into finance, but you might end up being a welder later on. But that's the beauty of what we do at Logan, what we do at all our community colleges across Illinois, is that we have this ability to retool you. We can start you, we can retool you, we can get you that transfer, we can get you that certificate. We can upskill you. I mean, and the best thing for me is that I tie in that classic liberal arts education that I got, because I believe everyone should walk out of that room with critical thinking skills. They should all be able to write technically. Mm-hmm. They should all have that basic math skill, right? Be able to
even you.
Hey, I got, I learned to love math when I was actually doing my PhD and I was working with stats.
Yeah, just took it,
because it's different, social stats are different, and I really enjoyed that. So that's the real long journey. That's what brings me here. I mean, I was looking for opportunity when I was at DuPage, and I saw this open up. It's, we're 500 miles away from my family and everybody else, and all where I grew up. But for me, it's the same. It's so important. Mm-hmm. And what we do. And so I took this opportunity. I was really excited to come down here, and I'm going on, it'll be 6 years in January.
Oh, really? Yeah. That's great.
Wow. That's quite the story.
Yeah, I love it.
And I love the influence from, you mentioned from Dr. LeBeau and his story, and how your paths cross, and how that influenced you to do what you do, and among other things too. But that's amazing. But I'm curious to know, you spent most of your time in the northern Illinois area, Indiana. What was appealing to you about John A. Logan and about the southern Illinois region that caused you to want to come down here?
Well, there's the opportunity, right? And the excitement of being able to come down and take over a college and do what I really love to do. Being in Illinois was a perk. I didn't really want to leave the state. There's a lot to the Illinois Community College Board and to the state regulation. All the states are a little bit different. Mm-hmm. I really wanted to stay in state, and this was just a really great opportunity. And the area is beautiful, right? Mm-hmm. Here's the interesting thing, and I admit to this a lot, and I feel really bad about it. When you grow up in northern Illinois, you spend a lot of time going to Wisconsin.
Oh, yeah.
Because you go to the Dells and you go up north, and I spent a lot of time going up to Minnesota and going fishing and going that way. And you don't realize that if you just drive through the cornfields in the middle of the state, mm-hmm. you can come down here to a really beautiful, mm-hmm. very beautiful place that has all of those same things: fishing and hiking, and the hills, and it's really beautiful. And the frankly, the appeal is the cost of living is a lot nicer. We lived in the western suburbs of Chicago, and it was extremely expensive. It's still extremely expensive. My daughter lives up there. Mm-hmm. But you get a lot more for what your money can stretch here, which is really a nice thing. But the people are great. When I came down here and interviewed, everyone I interviewed with was great. And granted, it was during COVID, and I couldn't see anybody's face because we were all wearing masks. But it was just, and I just saw this really gem of an opportunity with Logan, right on the, coming out of COVID, and there was a lot of plans. They had a facility master plan that had been waiting to move forward. There was a lot of projects they were waiting to move forward on, and I was very excited. It was a very exciting time to come down.
There's so many things about your story that I like. I feel like the three of us could have a whole history, World War II conversation because we're sort of history buffs too. But what I really love too that you did whatever it took to go to college. You were, no matter what job it was. And when I was going to Logan, my senior year, my stepdad was a coal miner, and he had to move away, and it was during times when they were laying off around here and whatever. So it was sort of like, we want you to go to college, but you need to figure it out, And Logan was that great first step of, you're going to take general studies anyways, and it was affordable, and it was right here at home, and it was just perfect. So it's inspiring to hear your story. But I also want to talk about your trades background and the trades component that Logan is taking on, which I'm so thankful for, because I don't think we have enough tradesmen at all. So you want to talk about what's going on there?
The trades taught me work ethic. My dad taught me work ethic, but the trades teach you. They teach you logic. They really do teach you logic. You don't realize how much the trades teach you logic and common sense. I've known a lot of folks who've gone straight into college and become professors, and they're delightful people, but sometimes they don't know where the socket is for the light bulb, right? And you learn so much in the trades, and I think that the value now, like I said, one of the things that I take away and I try to bring to and want all of the folks that come through for the trades programs is to take that history class or that sociology class and make sure they take that math class so that they can have critical thinking skills, so they can watch the news, they can read a newspaper, whatever, on the phone. There's no real newspapers anymore. But so that they can take that to the next step, and so that they know that it's not just a terminal degree, right? They come in and get their welding degree. That doesn't mean that they have to stop. They can come back. But we have great program, and right now we're expanding on our programs. We're building a brand new center for career and technical education. It's going to have a brand new welding, a brand new manufacturing program. We have upscaled and rehabbed our HVACs program, and we're doing our auto and our auto tech. And so auto body, auto tech, and that includes the EV program, it includes an RV program. Our manufacturing program that we're going to rebuild is going to be based on 21st century principles, right? It's not the old manufacturing plant that your grandparents knew or I knew. It's technical. It's you've got to have skill. You got to have a computer skill. You don't have to have a calculus degree, but you have to understand some basic principles to run the CNC machines and the different machines that we have. And so what I love is we have these programs to get students out. Now, the other program I really love is our highway construction program.
I didn't even know you had that.
We have an highway construction program. It's funded through IDOT. It's a very small program. It's very intensely small on purpose, where we work with folks who need a second chance. So it's all scholarship based. I don't pay for it, but it works through IDOT. And we teach them the basic tenets of work, how to put on your boots in the morning and get to work on time, how to use a shovel, how to do the flagging, how to be safe, OSHA standards. And we graduate 13 to 14 per cohort of these programs, and it changes lives. Mm-hmm. It literally gives you some folks aren't ready to come back to college, or they're not ready to even finish that GED, and they got to get out and go to work. Well, this program allows us. We had We had one signed to the Carpenters just now. He signed to the Carpenters. We had one young lady come in, and she's now going to sign with IBEW as a wireman. We've had several go into 773 with the laborers. We have multiple people going to 773 with the laborers. And it gives them this leg up, right? Mm-hmm. And every time I come to that graduation, there's the 13 of them. I say, you guys, y'all need to come back now. So you go out, get yourself some work, get yourself settled, make sure you've got your apartment settled and your finances going in the right direction, and then come back and start taking classes with us. Come back and get that welding certificate. Come back and get that manufacturing technical certificate. Upskill. Don't stop just because you started here. But these guys and gals that go through that program, it's so impactful. That we're helping them make this change. I wish I could grow that, but it's a special fund, and we can only do about so many per.
Well, I love that you're asking them something that you've done yourself, so you're not asking them something that's you can't relate to.
Mm-hmm. And I do tell them that story, and a lot of them will look at me like, yeah, they don't really, I'm standing there in a suit, and and they're like,
you need some old photos of.
And if you come in my office, I have a picture of my dad, and I somewhere I have some photos from, and I showed them a couple of years ago, of me hanging pipe and steel underneath the bridge on the Indiana Toll Bridge in the middle of winter with my hard hat on and my Carhartts, I do remember standing out in that cold. I had my master's by then because we'd come back and I went to work again because I couldn't find a job. And I called my wife and I said, I really want to do this other thing because
I'm cold.
It's cold out, and I'm a little bit older now, and I think I would like to use that upskill. But that's the thing, and that's what I want them to understand too. They can start off, and that experience of being I'll call it a grunt and doing the grunt work. Sometimes it's good, right? It teaches you some things, and then you want to get better and you want to upskill, and that's the thing that we really want to do. We never want people to plateau. We want them to continually grow because we want them to bring that economic generation back to the area and that security for themselves too.
Mm-hmm. Well, growth comes through that experience of struggle, and I think the advice in the council means so much more from someone who has done it, someone who has been in it than otherwise. And so the fact that you can provide that, and you've got that background in the trades, you've put in the work doing those things, is really valuable for the students. So I think it's really cool that Logan has all those offerings. For folks that are, they're figuring out which direction they want to go, and you might not necessarily know that in your late teens, your early 20s, your early 30s in some cases.
Mid 30s,
mid 30s.
Sure, you're figuring it out, but Logan has something for folks in any of those phases of their lives who are figuring out which direction to go and a path to get there. So I think that's really neat. You mentioned construction a little bit. There's a lot of construction going on at the college right now. Can you just explain a little bit about all the projects that are happening right now?
Yeah, like I said, when I got here to Logan was already a great institution physically, but it's a little aged. It's
tired.
My age, and so we're a little bit worn, and we need a little bit of refreshing, right? So we had a couple projects that were on the table when I got here. One was the new front entrance, and the new front entrance is going to be really the gem. That's going to be, you're going to see it off of 13. It's going to be such a fantastic thing for the area because it's not going to be just for the college. It'll be a community center basically to come and use. And we're moving our boardroom up there onto a mezzanine that'll be overlooking the bell tower and looking west toward the lake, and it'll just be a real beautiful place to come and gather and bring people together, not only for the students but actually for our community. I'm really looking forward to it, like press conferences and different things. And it'll be the grand entrance. It'll really show you this is the way you come in, and it kind of works like a funnel. It brings you in and brings you right into student services, brings you right into the heart of the college where you need to register and you need to get advising. But it'll be a great place to study and a great place to hang out. And we'll have all the Wi-Fi anybody could possibly need, and that's important. And then we are refreshing the college throughout. So new flooring, new paint. We took advantage of some of the monies that came through HERF during COVID to refresh almost all the desks in all of the classrooms with new desks and new chairs, so they're mobile. They move, so we can move people around. So that's really nice. But now we're kind of going back and getting rid of back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, we thought carpet would be really cool on the floor. It's nice, but it makes the sound go dead. But it's also really horrible to take care of. It's just,
Yeah.
a lot of different things. So we are actually kind of going back to a classic style on the flooring and doing this sort of terrazzo look that we're going to put throughout the campus. Really brightens up the place. We've done work with iGen, which is a granting institution that gives us money to work with changing our lighting to LED and being more energy efficient. We're doing all of that work. We're doing a lot of infrastructure work because behind the walls is things they're 55, 60 years old. They're starting to wear out, and we have to replace those, and new boilers and new air conditioning units, and upgrading the college with the technology that we need to upgrade, creating high flex classrooms so that you can be in a classroom taking a class, but you could also be online taking that class away from here, and then interacting with each other during that high flex classroom. So it's pretty neat. We're doing a major new project in back with the welding and the manufacturing, and that's from an EAD grant. So the grant money is coming from them. We have to put some. We have some money that we sink into that as well. But right now we've got the big project. We just built the baseball and player facility through money with Harrison and Bruce. So we're really just upgrading the campus, building it into the next century, really getting it ready for the next century, and trying to build it in a way and rebuild it in a way that will really last for another 50 years. With new technology and new flooring types and different things that we're doing, so that it's ready to go. That's all great. And I love that we're doing that, and it'll really attract. I think the best thing about our auto tech and our auto body program, when you guys come out to see that when we're finished, and I'll have you guys out, is that we're building it to look like a business. So you pull up your car to a door. There is an entrance for customers to come in and drop off the keys and meet with the students. So the students get the whole experience. How do I run a business? How do I deal with customers? So all of that right in there. Our HVAC is going to be all revamped. Jason Stutz, who's our professor for HVAC, this guy can just get stuff. He's got friends all over the state. We've got just trailers full of HVAC equipment for him to build into this area. So our students can really be prepared to get out there and become service technicians and work with the companies. And that's a big deal down here. I don't know about you guys. Now, being from up north, summer starts for me about 4 months ago, and it goes until December. And my air is on almost all the time.
Yeah,
So, having good techs that can come out and fix my stuff. And then I always love this. So, if I'm at the hospital I've had to be there on a couple of occasions, or I'm getting some work done at my house, or I'm getting my car fixed, I'm like, "Where'd you get your degree?" They're like, Logan. I'm like, "Great, awesome, You're awesome." They say, "I got it at SIC." Okay, that's fine. I give you no. I love Karen, and SIC is great, but I always love having that connection and then talking to them. So, what did you think? And I'm glad you went through your program. When I spent some time at SIH for a little tune-up on my own. And every nurse that walked in, my wife was dying, right? She's like, "Stop asking that question." I'm like, they're like, "You're embarrassing them." I'm like, "No, I need to know. I want to know if they got their degree there." So
that's awesome. Well, because Logan also has strong nursing, right?
Yeah, well, and so speaking of construction, so we have a third floor of the colleges, all of the colleges in Illinois have done this terrible thing. They're all called A, B, C, D, B, E, G building, right? So all the buildings are just a number or a letter. So, and they never connect right. Here's B and E connects together, and you're like lower B, upper E, and we're like, I don't know where any of this is. And I'm still 6 years in, I'm like, I'm naming things. So what was the communications or the B building is actually going to become our nursing and allied health building. And right now we have the bottom floor we just brought in Surge Tech, and we brought MLT, medical lab technician, and cardiosonography, and they're on the main floor and the bottom floor. We're rebuilding the third floor, which was vacant. When they built the building, they left the third floor empty. They never put anything in it. The intent was to go back and do it back in 2010 or so, and it just kind of sat there. We got congressional money from Tammy Duckworth to build it out. So we're building a brand new nursing floor up on there. So brand new simulator and simulation lab up on the third floor. And then the 2 floors in between are our next step. We're gonna move all of nursing, which is on the north side of the campus. We're moving them all into this building. So it'll be all nursing, allied health. The whole program will be over there in the B building. and then we're going to call it the Nursing and Allied Health Building, which will help you know where you're going. And then we're moving all of our communications and our undergrad programs over into G. We're going to be revamping all of those areas. And then where we're vacating welding and manufacturing from where it is C, we're going to call that the Public Services Building, and we're going to put in, it's my plan, is to put in a 911 dispatch training program. We have an affiliation with IDOC right now. They're doing training on our campus. It's not our program, but they're doing their training there. And I want to build a space for them because we also have a really strong criminal justice program. And that program blends in with that other program really well. So that whole area will be public services, and then forensics will be in there, and a bunch of different things. So you'll have that area. And then we're going to start naming these buildings for what they are, right? So that you'll know, oh, well, that's the Public Services Building, so that's where I go to get that. That's the Career and Technical Education Building, that's where I go there. And that's the Nursing and Allied Health Building.
That'd be nice.
You know, so I'm excited. It'll be a lot of fun.
So all this growth and makes me just want to step back a little bit and just tell us about Logan, when it started. I heard one of your interviews, I think they started in bunkers or whatever. So just give us a little bit background.
Yeah,
and maybe the growth and enrollment and those kind of things.
I love the story of community. So community college in Illinois has a great story. And if you know Harry Crisp was a big part of that, right? He was on the Illinois Community College board.
Harry Crisp was with Pepsi for listeners.
Yeah. And he was a big proponent of higher education and junior colleges. So junior colleges kind of popped up. Joliet Junior College was the first one here in Illinois back in the early 1920s. And then you had a couple of other little colleges pop up. And in 1966, they created the community college system. And so the community college system in Illinois was derived, and they created all of the different regions. And so, and then there was a certain amount of money given to each of the regions to say, create your own community college. And so that's the difference between our system and, say, like Ohio or California, because we're all what they call local control. So we only tax our region, and we tax very little, by the way. We can get to that if you want. We get a small proportionate from the state, and we get a proportionate from the tax, but then enrollment is the other piece of that keeps us rolling. But in 1966, 1967, the college was officially founded in 67. And yes, Quonset huts. So there was a lot of surplus from the Korean and the World War II, and Quonset huts were one of those things. And so I understand the story from Bill Anderson, who was the first VP of administration, who came and sat and chatted with me in my office one day and told me the story of he and his other fellow colleagues getting in a plane and flying up to visit Kankakee Community College, which had a bunch of these Quonset huts. And they wanted to see how they would work out down here. Well, Bill tells a story. Well, they were halfway there and the plane dived. They had to land in a cornfield.
Oh, my goodness.
Had to take a truck all the way up to Joliet and then a truck all the way back down to Southern Illinois.
I would definitely take an automobile on the way home.
But they brought back the idea of the Quonset huts. So they put these Quonset huts up. They bought the property right there at Crab Orchard. They put those Quonset huts up. They put a domed athletic area for basketball and some sports. And they started building the first building, which is the C building, which is the one that we're putting the new front entrance on. So the original building started in about 69. So between 69 and 85, all of the major structure that you see was kind of built. So if you've been on campus and you kind of walk from the front entrance and you walk around and come back around to G, all of that started 71 and ended in 85. And then the B building was built in 2010 or so. That was added on to the buildings. At the A building where my office is, I have no idea when that was built, but it's a wacky building. You've been there, Bill.
Yeah, I try to follow Ben when I'm coming to your office.
Yeah, I act like I know where I'm going sometimes.
Yeah.
But
that's what I'm really excited about that, because the boardroom's in the middle, and when we put the boardroom up on the second floor of the mezzanine, I'm taking that and making that into a very large conference space. So
that's nice. It'll
be really nice. But so the college started, and it started. Again, a lot of these stories are fun. Bill Anderson, Michelle Hamilton's father was a coach there, John Rivers, and they played baseball out in the parking lot where the parking lot is now. But They didn't have parking lots back in the day, back in the 70s, and they would like just park in the dirt. So the college has been, gradually built up over the years to be the buildings that they are now. They, like I said, they added they added the fitness center on in the mid 2010s, and so that's where we are now. And the college is really cool. I know that the story is that they were trying to come up with a name, and they started with the Greater Egypt Community College area, something like that.
Yeah, because our region's known for Greater, yeah.
Yeah, the Greater Egypt, yeah. But I think it was Bill Anderson again who'd come up with affiliating them with Johnny Logan. So Johnny Logan was, general in the Civil War, very prominent here in Southern Illinois. Had a really great career, almost became a vice president. And but his big proponent after the war was education. And so if you come back to the campus, you'll see his statue in the back of the building, and it's a dedication to him. To education we must look to the future. Mm-hmm. And so it's a great tie to our area and to our region. I lived on Logan Square back in Chicago. Didn't even know who Johnny Logan was until, and I'm a history guy. Right, but Civil War wasn't my thing. So
he helped us start Memorial Day too.
He did.
Yeah.
He was very much the part that brought in the Memorial Day services for us. So
when everybody's off on Memorial Day, you can thank
Johnny
Logan.
Yeah, for sure.
There you go. All right, a couple things I want to get to real quick if we can. The Harrison Bruce. Well, you mentioned Harrison Bruce, and they helped with the new facility, the baseball and softball facilities, which are beautiful, by the way. I can't imagine a lot of community colleges have what Johnny Logan has in terms of athletic facilities now for baseball and softball, which is great. But they also, there's the Harrison Bruce Historical Village piece that we haven't talked about yet. So can you kind of explain, in addition to what you've already done about the college, that piece of it?
Yeah, so it's a really neat opportunity. The Harrison Bruce Foundation, Julia Harrison was very much into history and learning about different things. The Purdy School, my understanding, the Purdy School was on or part of the property or close to the property, and so they moved it from where it originally was over to start the historical village. And then the village was brought in. They brought the dog trot. They brought in the cabin, and then they recreated a building that is, I don't know the name of that building. Sorry. I know the Mies Center.
Just say, yeah.
But the whole Harrison Bruce Village. And then just now, we broke ground on what will be the Prairie Museum. Cookie Goodwin, I don't know if you know Cookie Goodwin. Mm-hmm. Cookie has been coming to us for quite some time. Julia wanted to put a church in the village. Well, we have a little issue with that as far as putting a church because we are state property. So there's that whole separation of church and state. Mm-hmm. But we compromised. And we're building a replica of what generally looks like you could see on any prairie. A church basically is a building that'll look like that, but in it will be artifacts and museum pieces from Southern Illinois. Mm-hmm. And we're kind of focused on the different religions that have helped make up the makeup of Southern Illinois, and so a cultural museum of sorts. And so they're really excited. It's well on its way. The foundation is done. They're going to start putting that up pretty soon.
Yeah, I think I read something about that because I think Cookie had said that all these historic items tend to come to her.
Yeah.
And they're in her garage or whatever, which I tend to understand that a little bit in Carterville. But I love, for listeners, you just drive up to the parking lot and there's a separate area outside of these historical buildings, and it gives you history in the visitor center. So even if you're not going to college or whatever, it's a nice tribute to the name of the college and just the history of our region. So kudos to Harrison Bruce and the good ones in particular. So, what I also like, and I'm sort of skipping around here a little bit, is you serve on SI Now board, which is Southern Illinois organization for economic development that was formed a few years ago and much needed. But Logan is doing so much to help with that, not just your service on the board, but just these trades and the nursing and getting students ready for these fields that are needed. So do you want to talk about any economic development or SI Now? Or?
So I really love what we're doing with SI right now. So I've served on several of the committees on SI Now, along with folks from SIU, from SIC, from Shawnee, from Red Lake. So there's an opportunity that came up for us to actually, so the 5 community colleges that touch the Southern Illinois region, that's SWIC, Red Lake, SIC, Shawnee, and Johnny Logan College. We're coming together to become a board member, right? So we're basically paying on our dues. Mm-hmm. We're collaborating our money together to put our dues in to be a board member. And so each one of us will take a year to serve on the board collaboratively. Because we are looking at ourselves, we are stronger together as a region, and we're stronger together as a community college system, because we can all focus on some different things. As we move forward, one of the things that we're looking to do is bring in the community college baccalaureate degree to our colleges. And so we're actually trying to get that passed here before the end of this next legislation is done. If that passes, what it'll do is we won't be in competition with SIU. We're not trying to redo higher education, but we are trying to build bridges to basically a trades baccalaureate degree, right? Mm-hmm. We want people to be more experienced and have a better step up. When I mentioned that I was in the trades, as I was moving through my career in college trying to piece it together, when I finally got to that point where I had about an associate's degree, then I became a foreman. Right, so having that associate's degree and having that background and understanding of being able to read prints and do different things was very helpful in moving me up in the ranks of my trade. Getting that baccalaureate degree in a trade field, we haven't decided on what that will be yet, but in that sort of vein, will help those folks who really want to go into that middle management program or get that next step up, really advance. But what we talk about is the fact that I'm not going to have 6 baccalaureate degrees at Logan. We don't have the volume. Mm-hmm. I'll have one. SIC will have one. Shawnee will have one. Ren Lake will have one. And we'll work together to decide what makes best sense, right? For Shawnee or for Ren, is it an ag program, mm-hmm. right? For us, is it an organizational management program, because we are by a bigger urban area between Carbondale and Marion, mm-hmm. and would that make more sense? For Shawnee, it could it could be the transportation and logistics. So we haven't decided those yet, but we got to get the bill passed first so that we can get it going. But the economic impact from that will be huge. Like right now, and just throw out some numbers, $244 million total dollars in economic impact generated by JLC.
Wow.
And that's 23-24, so I'm sure it's gone up a little bit. 1 in every 26 jobs in the JLC district is supported by the college and its students. So we have some touch. 2.9% of the region's gross regional product comes from Johnny Logan College. All right. We alone are larger than the entire transportation and warehousing industry in the region, which is why I want to give that to Tim down in Shawnee.
Yeah.
I think he'll do better down there. We generate $29.3 million in regional income generated. That's just one part of it. We support 407 jobs total at the college itself. That $29.3 million is just out of the college. Our payroll is $26.7 million. So that money is money that stays here and goes back into the economy. It gives people an opportunity to, that's my staff and myself going back into the economy here. So for SI Now, and my work with SI Now, there's that impact and that tie, right? Mm-hmm. And so having that ability to work with our industry partners and our manufacturing partners and our management partners so that we understand what the industry needs, so that I can be more nimble and get more programs out for people. That's a good part of being on the SI Now board. And then working across the state and saying, hey, did you know I have a great cybersecurity program? I have a great cybersecurity program. If you wanted to bring a cybersecurity company down here and park yourself in one of our buildings that's not being used to the best of its abilities right now, and I'm sure that through SI Now and through other avenues, we can help you get started, and then I can produce all the folks you need to work in there.
Yeah, what a pro that is.
Well, and there's that word nimble again. I think that has come up in several of our episodes, and I love that the college has the ability to be nimble and to meet the region where it is and offer opportunities for people to get the education they need to find the jobs that they need and be the fuel to that economic development, along with SI now. But the college really is the fuel for that. So, well, that's all been really great. We've learned a lot. We've covered a lot today, and I really am excited about the direction that the college is going. So many different things going on, so many opportunities for people in our region. We learned a little bit about your background at first, but this is kind of the fun part of the podcast. We're going to learn about you a little bit more now. So we like to ask all of our guests, what are you interested in? What are you into? It could be you can take it any direction you want to go. It could be a book, movie, podcast. You mentioned science fiction. Yeah. I know you're a runner. Mm-hmm. I've seen some medals hanging in your office. So why don't you just tell us more about yourself?
Yeah, I started running. Being in construction, I had a lot of Italian beefs when I was growing up. I was a bigger guy. I started running in 2004, 2005. Did my first marathon in 2006. I've done 11 marathons. I don't know how many half marathons and a ton of 5Ks. Love running. For me, it's I'm not a together runner though. I like to run by myself. When I was working on my PhD, I actually would bring my recorder with me, and when I was running, if I was thinking about what I was writing or something, I would just stop and tell myself, and then I could go home and rethink it.
Gets the juices flowing.
It gets the juices flowing, yeah. So I love running, and it's just kind of a hobby of mine now. I haven't run a marathon in a while. I told everybody at the beginning of this year I was going to try to get one more in this year, but my knee is just not really playing well with me. So I don't know if that'll happen. Love fishing and camping. Grew up doing that. My dad was from Utah, so we spent a lot of time in the mountains, in the Wasatch Mountains, and then in my late teens, my dad discovered him, and I discovered the Boundary Waters up in Minnesota, and we would go up there, and that's right on the Canadian and Minnesota border there. Got my daughter hooked on it when she was 13.
Oh, that's fun.
So my daughter will throw a canoe. Well, now she won't, but she did, and she will again. Right now she's due in October, so we're not going. We're not going to jump on a canoe anytime. Thank you. I'm excited. That'll be our first. Yeah. So. Yeah, she would throw a canoe and a duffel bag back on, and up the trail she would go, and we'd go out into 2 weeks into the wilderness, and just the two of us, and just
that's great.
It was awesome. I'm a big reader. Like I said, I love science fiction. My wife drives her nuts because I'll have 3 books in the house going at the same time. I'm reading a history book over here. I'm reading an education book, and then I'm reading Return of the King again for like the 100th time or something like that.
I was going to ask. I was going to put you on the spot. What books are you reading currently, or books? It sounds like you have multiple.
So I'm reading that. I'm reading this economics book on, and I can't remember the name of the book right now. It's got a great title though, about zombies. But it's not about zombies. But it's an economist just talking about sort of where we are in the world right now. Like a lot of that. Stephen Ambrose is a history teacher. I love Stephen Ambrose. I read almost all of his books, and I've used a lot of his books in my teaching over time. So, I've always got one of those going. But, and if
it sounds like a science fiction economics hybrid.
Yeah, yeah. No, it really is a good one. I think that's probably what attracted me to the book at first, and then I'm like, this is cool. Economics is one of those classes that I struggle through.
It sounds terribly exciting.
Yeah, but yesterday was the 4th, and so may the 4th be with you, right? So yesterday I wore my Darth Vader socks and my Darth Vader tie, and I had Star Wars on at the office on my screen the whole day, just kind of playing on repeat.
I bet students love that. That's awesome.
I don't get a lot of student traffic in my office, which bums me out because of where I am. I'm trying to.
You didn't walk around and pull up your pant leg.
We had an honors program last night, which was really cool. Oh, so this is really cool. So I'm going to kind of sidetrack a little bit, but I'll tell you about it's a little trades thing, and then about education. So I was sitting there, and we had the Illinois. I'm going to get this wrong now. Student government, it's the
Student Government Association?
Yeah.
Yeah, SGA.
But they went to Springfield and they competed and they won. They did a really great job. So I met the vice president and the treasurer last night, and I think it was the treasurer. He's part of the debate, and he was doing all the political debating, but he's in the auto program. So he's getting his degree in auto. And then the young lady is getting her degree in sociology, wants to be a lawyer. And I said, this is great. This is exactly what I'm talking about. That's the kind of thing. You want to be an auto mechanic, and that's great, but you also know Illinois government. You know how to debate. That's the beauty of being at a comprehensive community college. That's something we can do that's so different than a major university.
Well-rounded.
Well-rounded, and just a really great institution. So to bring that back is that I was wearing the Darth Vader socks, and one of the teammates had seen my socks. He goes, "Great socks," during the night. So, but yeah, I love that. And I golf when I can. I don't have a great handicap, so if you're playing with me, it's looking for the ball on both sides of the field. But get out to do that. I like the outdoors. Love the outdoors when I can get out. So.
That's great. That's great.
This is one of those podcasts that I want to listen to a few times because it's been so good with so much information. So thank you for joining us today.
Listeners, don't forget to subscribe to Helping You Thrive on your favorite podcast platform or watch the video on Banterra's YouTube channel. You can support the podcast by sharing on social media or posting a review. Follow Banterra Bank's social media for all the latest news and promotions of Banterra and our communities. Our podcast today was recorded at Ethos at the Citadel in Marion, Illinois, and produced by Union Street Arts and Banterra's marketing department. You can find more information on Banterra at our website, banterra.bank. Thanks for joining us today. Banterra Bank, member FDIC.